from the heart of the city too busy to hate. A progressive voice making too much sense for corporate media's comfort. This is The Ron Show, where we the people come first. Here's your host, Ron Roberts.
Hello, and thank you for listening. Whether it's on Georgia Now, weekdays 4 to 6 p.m., the replay 8 to 10 a.m. the following morning, or 11 p.m. Progressive Voice via TuneIn, unless you listen where you podcast, and thank you for that. If you hear some noise in the background, I apologize. I am working from home, as I normally do, and somebody in the building is getting their floors pulled up and replaced. Didn't bother telling anybody, so I didn't get to schedule my recording of today's show around that. It's anyway, I'm getting to meet the new neighbor. Hi, neighbor. Let's see. Where do we start? I want to start with a story that is probably not getting a whole lot of guff, but likely may start building up some steam. This from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Michelle Baruchman reporting that after a Democratic state lawmaker was charged Monday with fraud related to government assistance during the COVID-19 pandemic, the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Georgia said more are to come. The quote, "Our investigations regarding pandemic-era fraud have identified bad actors inside and outside of government and at all levels, federal, state, and local." That, according to Theodore Hertzberg, U.S. Attorney, in a statement to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. It was Democratic State Representative Sharon Henderson who pled not guilty in federal court Monday on charges of defrauding the federal government during the pandemic and making false statements. She's accused of collecting about $18,000 in pandemic unemployment benefits prosecutors say she was not qualified to receive. Hertzberg said future indictments would also be related to fraudulent use of pandemic relief funds. Henderson is a Democrat. Hertzberg said the indictments are not politically motivated. Well, I guess we'll see. He said, "We and our law enforcement partners conduct our inquiries irrespective of a subject's political party, race, sex, or any other factor unrelated to criminal culpability." State House Democratic leader Carolyn Hughley did not respond to requests for comment. Senate Democratic leader Harold Jones said it's too soon for him to respond without reading the underlying evidence. That is a sensible thing to say. He added, "I don't know all the facts of this case, but did add that he believes that it's too early to determine whether the indictments are or aren't politically motivated." Let me also give credit where it's due. Republican Senate leader Jason Anavitarte did not respond to requests for comment. Okay. Good on you. Back to Michelle Baruchman's reporting. In the court hearing Monday, Judge Justin S. Anand required Henderson to turn over her passport as a condition of her bond. He did not restrict her from continuing to serve as an elected representative in the Georgia General Assembly. The new legislative session begins January 12th. That's less than a month. A little more than a month. According to the Georgia Constitution, Governor Brian Kemp has 14 days from when his office receives the indictment to appoint a commission to determine whether Henderson is fit to serve. Then the commission has 14 days to produce a written report with a decision. All the more interesting because we have 2 state house district special elections today, right? I mean, that could find ourselves with the Democrats picking up a seat or 2, likely a runoff for the one, and then the Democrat may have a shot in House District 23 and 121. I spoke a few weeks ago with the Democratic candidates for both of those, Scott Sanders in House District 23 and Eric Gisler in House District 121. You'll hear those conversations on today's show. By the way, I need to point out, I am a little under the weather. I woke up with some general achiness, feeling a little, I don't want to say fevery, but a little flush. So I'm home alone, just me and the cat, and avoiding people. Although I did have a podcast recording last night, so I certainly hope that I didn't give what I have to her. And I certainly hope for her sake she didn't give what I got to me. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, well wishes to everybody, right? That's what we want. So you're going to get, again, recycled conversations with Scott Sanders. Thank God I did them, right? And with Eric Gisler back in the early days of their special election campaigns. Back to the Michelle Baruchman article about Henderson's arrest here. Carter Chapman, a spokesperson for Brian Kemp, said the governor has not yet received the indictment, so nothing to do there. Henderson does not chair any committees in the House. She is a member of the House Banking, Budget, Retirement, and Parks committees. During the pandemic, people unable to work because of COVID-19 were eligible to apply for relief funds to supplement the money they lost. Prosecutors say now that Henderson applied for the relief program by falsifying pay stubs for Henry County schools on her application, even though she had not worked there since 2018. Cringe. I hope this does not turn out to be true, but cringe if it is. Henderson's office, of course, declined to comment. Oh, by the way, this is a little bit of a juicy story, right? Everybody's been kind of waxing nostalgic, I guess, or looking back on the Trump interference case now that Pete Scandalakis put that dog down. Let's take a walk to this open grave. Fido. Anyway, since that has been a point of conversation of late, it's only more interesting that now Fani Willis, through her attorney, the former governor of Georgia, by the way, Roy Barnes, says that they're showing up to testify before the Georgia Senate committee. Rosie Mannins at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution reports that Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis will testify about her conduct before a state Senate committee next week, her lawyer told the Georgia Supreme Court. Okay. I'm less concerned about than I'm with Carol Henderson. The reason being is because I've said all along, I shake my head, right? I'm like, Fani, Nathan, y'all should have known better. You're grown adults, positions of authority, lightning rods, all the attention. You really messed this up. But however, when it comes to culpability or wrongdoing, technically, I think they kind of didn't do anything all that wrong. I mean, maybe a little favoritism, but still, it's not like it was known that they were dating. It didn't turn out that they were dating very long. There was no, by the way, conflict of interest. None whatsoever, because they were on the same side of the case. Like, the conflict would have existed if Nathan were representing Trump or one of Trump's co-defendants. That wasn't the case. They were on the same side of the case. The conflict of interest part is like, what are you talking about? That was just a maneuver to gum up the process, and it succeeded, obviously. And so here we are. Back to Rosie Mannins reporting. Former Governor Roy Barnes said Tuesday that Willis will comply with a witness subpoena issued earlier this year by the Georgia Senate Special Committee on Investigations, though she has spent more than a year trying to avoid testifying. He said she will answer the committee's questions December 17th. We're showing up, said Barnes, the lawyer for Willis, in her ongoing fight against an earlier subpoena issued by the committee in 2024. Rosie Mannins reporting that committee, chaired by State Senator Bill Cowsert from Athens, who, by the way, is running for state office, is investigating the operation of Willis' office, including, quote, her romantic relationship with one-time Deputy Prosecutor Nathan Wade, which I, again, contend there's no conflict of interest because they were on the same side of the case. The committee has been trying since August of 2024 to compel Willis to testify. However, of course, 2024, August, prior to the election, no reason for her to give the opposition any fodder, right? Back to Rosie Mannins, she reports that Willis now argues the fight over the 2024 subpoena is moot, but the committee members disagree. Barnes said the committee's 2024 subpoena was void from the beginning because it lacked full General Assembly support. Well, I don't know. I mean, he was the governor, right? He worked his way up through state government and was issued outside the legislative session, he argues. He said it's now dead. Willis is not fighting a second subpoena issued by the same committee earlier this year. That subpoena was delivered after Governor Brian Kemp signed into law a bill clarifying the investigative powers of the Georgia legislature, including lawmakers' ability to subpoena witnesses, administer oaths, and compel testimony, even outside of the 40-day legislative session. Willis has also agreed to hand over certain documents to the committee based on another subpoena in the 2024 calendar year that she stopped challenging. The documents largely relate to her scuttled election interference case against President Donald Trump and more than a dozen others. Mannins reporting that during oral arguments Tuesday, the state Supreme Court justices probed whether Willis' case against the 2024 subpoena for her testimony is moot. Barnes said it is, in part because of the new law. Governor Barnes, in that famous drawl of his, he says, I'll leave it to another day whether I think that statute is appropriate. Naturally, opposing counsel has a different perspective. Josh Belinfante, a lawyer representing the committee members, said the 2024 witness subpoena is not voided by the fact that it was issued during a previous legislative session. He says, nor does the fact that the witness has agreed to testify on December 17th change the calculus today. Belinfante said that if Willis testifies to the satisfaction of the committee, he will notify the court then. In September, Republican state senators said they had struck a deal with Willis lawyers that paved the way for her to testify in November, but that didn't happen. Remember that we had dates before, and it did not work out, Belinfante told the court Tuesday. We hope that it does. The court is expected to decide the case by the end of March. Well, again, she's still coming this month, December 17th, to speak to that Senate committee. While the Senate committee lacks the power to prosecute, disbar, or directly discipline Fani Willis, it can recommend changes to the state budget, which, is punishing taxpayers, Fulton County taxpayers, or draft legislation regulating prosecutors' conduct. Okay. But again, doing so in hindsight does not mitigate the fact that there was, in my mind, and again, I'm no lawyer, not even a law student, no conflict of interest because she and Nathan Wade were on the same side. It's not like she was sleeping with the enemy. Back to Rosie Mannon's reporting. Senate Republicans, led by Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, he of the $700,000 liquid assets one day, $10 million loan to his campaign the next. Nothing to see there, though. Have been eager to keep the spotlight trained on Willis as they head into the 2026 election cycle. Unfortunately, the TV ads running are aimed squarely at Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. Anyway, both Cowsert and Jones are seeking higher offices. I did mention Cowsert. Of course, we know Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones is running for governor. The committee was also recently tapped to investigate another prominent Democrat, Stacey Abrams. Not much yet, by the way, from the State Senate Committee on the First Liberty loan scam that seems to have ensnared a lot of Republicans' money into some illegal activity. However, the State Ethics Committee is working on that, so we'll put a pin on that and wait and see what happens. All right. What does the Paramount perceived purchase or presumed purchase of Warner Media mean to you? If you're not concerned about this yet, I'm sorry. I hate to be that guy, but you really ought to be. We'll do that when the Ron Show returns. Thank you so much for listening. On Georgia Now, Progressive Voice via TuneIn or wherever you podcast. A little bit of a short segment this hour before we get to our interview at the bottom of the hour. Again, we've got special elections today, so we got to talk to state house candidates. We actually talked to them weeks ago. However, I'm feeling a little under the weather, so we're doing a little bit of replay. And the election's today, so why not? It's top of mind, right? How about this from Ross Williams at the Georgia Recorder? A federal judge has struck down Georgia's ban on gender-affirming care. A ban. That's right, struck down Georgia's ban on gender-affirming care for transgender inmates in state custody, but the state is appealing the decision. Remember, that was like a big political football in 2024. Kamala Harris, in my mind, did not, and her camp did not have the response for that, and let 4 weeks and months into the end of that campaign, let the Trump campaign pummel her, when all she had to say was, yeah, that's because it's constitutionally protected, which the state of Georgia is finding out. Again, Ross Williams reporting, Judge Victoria M. Calvert's decision, which was issued last week, means that the approximately 340 people with gender dysphoria diagnoses in the custody of the Georgia Department of Corrections can receive treatments like hormone therapy if their doctors deem it necessary. The case was brought by 5 transgender people in state custody. It was Senate Bill 185, which was passed during the 2025 legislative session, received Governor Brian Kemp's signature, and went into effect in May after sparking controversy in both chambers during the last year's legislative session. In the Senate, 3 Democrats crossed party lines to support the measure, along with all Republicans, while 4 Democratic senators did not vote. Nearly all House Democrats, you remember this, took part in a walkout over the bill, characterizing it as a waste of time and part of what they called a fixation on a vulnerable minority. You're right. 3 Democrats voted for the bill, while 2 others stayed in the chamber and voted against it. Calvert's ruling makes a temporary block on the bill she signed in September permanent. See, the law called on doctors to monitor patients already receiving treatments and taper the drugs gradually and to provide counseling. What kind of counseling? Are we talking like, transitional therapy, reverse? Yeah, it's kind of a gray area, right? Based on testimony, Calvert said that was, quote, an inadequate blanket substitute for hormone therapy. She said there is, quote, no genuine dispute that gender dysphoria is a serious medical need and that removing the option for doctors to treat it with hormone therapy without a medical reason violates the law. Yes, the Constitution. See how easy that was to say, Madam Vice President? The court does not hold that the Constitution requires all inmates receive hormone therapy if they want it, she wrote. Rather, the court requires healthcare decisions for prisoners to be made dispassionately by physicians based on individual determinations of medical need and for reasons beyond the fact that the prisoners are prisoners. Okay, that was a little more wordy than Kamala Harris needed to say, but that's what the judge is saying. The Constitution provides that if a doctor deems the treatment is medical necessary, no one else gets to have a say because the Constitution says that no one else gets to have a say about medical necessity and treatments while in prison. Back to Ross Williams reporting. Attorney General Chris Carr's office appealed the ruling Monday. Carr said in a statement that his office is willing to fight the case all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Well, we know what'll happen there. Carr, a Republican, is running to be Georgia's next governor. Thank you, Ross Williams, for that. The bill's author, Cotulla Republican Senator Randy Robertson, said he's not discouraged by the ruling. Of course not, because, again, they know how far this goes up, where it winds up. This is the reality. This is again one of those moments where you have to tell those, I don't feel like voting, folks. It's not going to affect me, folks. At some point in time, you may not be the marginalized person being targeted by the white, mostly male, conservative patriarchy, but they will get to you eventually. Cotulla Republican Senator Randy Robertson said, we planned this all along. We knew exactly how this was going to go. Yes, because the Constitution has been around since the late 1700s. It's pretty easy to understand, right? He goes, they were going to find a friendly judge, one that understands the Constitution, I guess. And Judge Calvert very much is that, Robertson said, of the Biden-nominated judge. But argue the merits of the decision, Randy. You can't. Robertson argued that Georgia taxpayers should not be on the hook for treatments he called not medically necessary. Is he a doctor? He's not a doctor. And he expressed confidence that his bill will be vindicated as it winds through the courts. He said, I stand with Attorney General Chris Carr in the belief that at the end of the day, this will be in front of the U.S. Supreme Court, and it will quickly be upheld. He went on to say that the law will be established as constitutional and right, and we will be moving on to things that are more important in Georgia. Oh, yes, so at least they admit this is so not freaking important. It's just bigoted, and that's what stirs the cockles of MAGA. Past guest, friend of the show, Human Rights Campaign Georgia Director Bentley Hudgens said HRC and other groups mobilized thousands to oppose the bill as unconstitutional and a waste of money, saying it'll bring more financial burdens to the state of Georgia and take valuable time away from solving actual issues. Over $4.1 million has already been paid to settle cases like these. The House Democrats walked out on this bill because they saw it for what it was. Undignified, expensive discrimination. It is my hope, she said, that when we return to the Gold Dome in January, that our colleagues of all parties focus on bringing solutions to keep the hungry fed, expand access to health care, and address the ever-rising cost of living. Okay, last thing, and then I'm going to move on to interviews at the bottom of the hour. All this talk about whether Netflix will purchase Warner Media, whether Paramount in their hostile takeover attempt will purchase the Warner companies. Here's the bottom line. It doesn't matter who wins. This is like watching Godzilla versus King Kong, right? Us on the ground, none of us win. Buildings get toppled. Somebody gets stomped on, burned, eaten alive. It's not good. This is all part and parcel to the swirling of the drain that our media and journalism industries have fallen victim to. I get it. It would be nice not to have an HBO Max and a Netflix account. Oh, it'd be nice to have just the one that handled both of them, right? Absolutely. It would be fantastic. And we could do that with still, your cable company does that. For example, when you pay your cable company, say Xfinity, for example, you pay Xfinity and Xfinity pays all the cable companies for the rights to broadcast their channels to you. Yeah. That whole notion of, oh, I'm tired of all these apps. I don't want to have a Netflix app and a Hulu app and a Disney Plus app we could create an app that does all that. I don't want an Amazon. We could create an app that does all of that. It's not that hard. The problem is we've got this scramble now to create monster media entities. And by the way, they're already big as hell. You already have Paramount, which owns CBS, affecting CBS News. Barry Weiss holding a town hall with Erica Kirk this weekend. It's icky, right? I mean, this is not within 60 Minutes or within CBS News. This is a primetime special. I'm sorry, who asked for this? If Paramount were to purchase Warner instead of Netflix, you would then have CNN essentially owned by Paramount, which owns CBS News. This money, by the way, a lot of it comes from Jared Kushner. You know him, right? The son-in-law of the current president of the United States. Yeah, I mean, this is, again, Godzilla versus King Kong. Nobody is going to win outside of one of those two nefarious monsters. I mean, hey, make no mistake, MAGA's okay with this, the GOP as well. Not because it protects our First Amendment rights or is healthy for our economy and society on the whole, but because it solidifies their grip on, number one, data, lots of data, and two, the information that formulates our grasp of issues that frame our political ideology. Y'all, this is Big Brother stuff. Make no mistake, we've been going down this road since the mid-1990s. It's why you can't call your local radio station and speak to a personality in the building, because they're not in the building. In fact, they're probably not even in the studio at the time that you're hearing them. They're probably pre-recorded. It's why your local news talk station, I mean, in very rare circumstances, very rare, do you have local talent on the air at your local news talk station. Say what you will about WSB Radio, they're right-leaning. But for the most part, They're local-ish anyway. Give them that. But most news talk stations are not. They might have one day part. Might. Other than that, they're just giving you Glenn Beck, Sean Hannity, et cetera, and so on. Mike Levin, blah, 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 blah. Opposing or derailing this is something we probably don't have the numbers to affect either. So I hate to bring that to your attention. But the best we could do, maybe, boycott these new monster corporations. But by then, where's the alternative source for the information? By the way, have I mentioned that this show now airs on Georgia Now, which is available on the App Store, Google Play, or at heargeorgianow.com. You can also tell your Amazon Echo device to play station Georgia Now on iHeartRadio and listen to it whenever you like. The show also airs on Progressive Voices via the TuneIn app as well, or wherever you podcast. All right. Special elections coming up. We've got interviews with the two candidates running. We'll get to one of those next when the Ron Show returns on Georgia Now, Progressive Voices via TuneIn, or wherever you podcast.
Archived audio, blogs, social media links, and more, all in one place. Log on at ronshowatl.com.
The Ron Show is heard weekdays, 4 to 6 p.m. on Georgia Now, 11 p.m. Progressive Voices via TuneIn or wherever you podcast. House seat 23 here in the Georgia State Legislature is a vacant seat. In fact, as I mentioned earlier in the show, today is the runoff. Joining me, the lone Democrat running for that seat in something of a jungle primary. We've gone through that before with Deborah Shigley just a month ago, as a matter of fact. And not unlike Deborah, Scott Sanders believes he has a shot. Scott joins me this morning. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well, Ron. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the chance to talk to you and everybody and all your listeners. Thank you.
So give us a little bit of the background. How is it that you came upon the notion that you wanted to run for a state House seat?
It's an interesting story.
Or were you recruited? Who was it that goaded you into this?
I was not recruited. I was a complete shock to the Cherokee County Democratic Party and came up out of the blue. So the running joke with my wife is that this is a midlife crisis. I just turned 50, and instead of a sports car, I decided to run for office.
Yeah.
But no, I've followed politics my whole adult life. I've been a blue, liberal, progressive Democrat. Grew up in California, lived in Colorado and Boulder, People's Republic of Boulder. Moved out to Georgia, lived in Atlanta. I was a very quiet but active Democrat, donated money, wrote postcards, and, did phone banking, but never actually put my feet on the ground. And, I talked a lot, but I didn't put my feet on the ground. Mm-hmm. And so this last year has just been horrifying for progressives and liberals and the country.
Yeah.
And, I just kept getting more and more agitated and finally started being more outspoken and realized I had some neighbors that were also, Democrats and liberals. And, we started talking and I just kept moving, and then went to the first No Kings rally, and just the energy there in Canton was insane for Democrats. Mm-hmm. And then went to Woodstock, and the energy there was beyond belief for Democrats. Mm-hmm. It was crazy. Mm-hmm. And it just kept energizing me more and more. So when the elections were coming up, obviously I was watching the elections last Tuesday night, and just overwhelming energy and just happiness and joy. And I've been watching the House seat, like, who are they going to run? Because I want to do something. This is my chance for boots on the ground. I'm doing it now. I'm in. I'm finally engaged. And there's nobody registered. It was crazy. So then Tuesday night hits. I'm losing my mind. My friends are losing their mind. And there's still nobody registered. So Wednesday morning, well, actually Tuesday night, I told my wife I was going to register if nobody did. She thought I was crazy because it was about 2 a.m. Mm-hmm. And so when I woke up Wednesday and got ready to head downtown because nobody had registered yet, she goes, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Someone's got to do this." Yeah. And I messaged the Cherokee County Dems again and said, "I don't see anybody running, and I'm going down there. If you guys have a plan or you have someone running, I'll stand down. But we got to have someone in this race. We got to do it. We got to have somebody that people can see and stand behind and, just be visible out there and represent." Mm-hmm. And they got back to me about 3 hours after I had registered. and I was refreshing the, Secretary of State's page. And I was like, I'm still the only one. I'm still the only one. This is insane. Yeah. And then after it was all done, I was sitting in my car going, now what? And, but I want to say, I went into this well aware, at least of what the role and responsibility is. I stay very current on national issues. I try to stay very current on state issues. Uh-huh. District issues, not so much, because I found out nobody has run in our district for this House seat since 2018.
Wow.
And, I'm getting up to speed as fast as I can. And the local party and organizers have just stepped up. It's blown my mind how many people are out there, how many people, and how hard they work 24/7, 365 days a year to just, spread the word and make a difference, and push for Democrats, and it's amazing. So this is day 7 now.
Yeah.
And it's been probably the wildest 7 days of my life. It's been amazing. But so I'm going into this eyes open, and I'm giving it everything. This isn't like a
Love that.
impulsive thing where I was going to throw $100, $400 at it. I took money out of my savings account, ready to, spend some money, get some signs, and get my friends out there and do what I needed to do. But it's gotten bigger than I could ever imagine. Yeah, I think you're right. We actually do have a shot at this, and I'm giving it everything. If we got a shot, we're going for it.
Well, then let's make sure that anybody listening can help you out and maybe recoup some of that money. We can go to SandersForGA.com, incidentally, if you'd like to help Scott out with this campaign. So you said the county party has been instrumental, and I love the Cherokee County Democratic Party. That little scrappy bunch is enthusiastic, and I think making a difference in a county that, is on the cusp of, turning blue at some point in time here in the very near future, as most metro Atlanta counties eventually do. So I'm very encouraged to hear that they're gung-ho and right there behind you. What about the state party? Have you heard much from anybody at the state level as far as you running for? The reason I ask is because the Democrats can't win seats if they don't run candidates, and this is a House seat that, as you mentioned, hasn't had a candidate since 2018 on the ticket that was representing the Democratic Party. So, what is the state party saying or doing, or is that still a work in progress?
Well, yeah, and yes, they have stepped up as well. They've reached out to me. We've had conversations about supporting the campaign, and they're engaged as well. There's another competitive district out there that is more likely to flip than mine. That's District 121. Yeah. But I came up out of the blue. And to be fair to everybody, they had plans to run a candidate in the regular election next year. He just wasn't able to run in this one. Mm-hmm. So they had already started beginning the process of preparing for next year, the state and the local Cherokee County Democrats. And so coming up out of the blue caused a whole lot of people to, pause in their tracks, or they thought they were done for the year, at least in terms of, getting ready for next year. And so I threw a wrench in everything, but it was a good wrench, and the support that I've gotten from state has been great, as well as the local Democratic Party, and just everybody's like all in on this.
I love to hear that. That's great.
We've had conversations about next year, and I'm like, let's get through this year first.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, it's being visible. It's causing the Republicans to spend a lot of money and compete in a race that they weren't expecting.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's just giving people hope. I want to continue that energy that I had last week when, the blue wave started across the country. And we flipped seats all over the country that just were unheard of. In Georgia, the Public Utility Commissioner seats, that was huge, 60%, wins. Let's do this. If someone's got to. Nobody was there, so I did.
That's infectious energy. Just to remind anybody who doesn't know, Representative Mandy Bollinger, who was a Republican in Canton and serving in that role, she died in October after a long battle with cancer. So this is sort of a somewhat unexpected but expected race to have occurred. Obviously, we all would have wished that Mandy would have been able to serve her full term, at least to get to the point where we would have had a not a special election, but in 2026. I want to go back to your pitch here. I was reading a little bit on your website that you speak about having this is damning. This is Oppo research, Scott. You have great friends who are Republicans. Dun, dun, dun. I mean, if this were a primary, this would sink you. No, I'm kidding.
Hey, man, I live in Cherokee County.
But you mentioned,
there's going to be a high percentage of my friends that are Republicans.
You have to, right? Exactly. You have great friends who are independents, libertarians that were at your wedding. You have great friends who are Democrats that you still challenge on some of those positions. You sound like the kind of person who could be, I don't know, a reasonable, rational adult in diving into a process here that is sort of short on reasonable, rational adults that don't think outside their party rigidity. So how are you going to help change that?
That's my pitch. You pretty much nailed it. That's why I called it common sense. I mean, I've been a consultant for many, many years. I was a consultant for many, many years until my current position. And, the whole point is you want to agree on a goal. And once you agree on a goal and you agree on what's important and what you want to achieve, you kind of have to give up some stuff on how you get there sometimes to get everybody on board. And that has been just completely removed from politics nowadays.
Yeah.
Everybody has to, they want what they want and they have to do it their way. That's it. And there's, it's like the litmus test for candidates. I'm probably going to say some stuff that people aren't going to agree with, but I'm hoping that we're in alignment in terms of what the ultimate goals are. Let's fund education. Maybe it's a change in the state tax. Maybe it's a change in the property tax. Maybe there's some negotiating we're going to have to do to get more people on board to get it done. But if it's important to you, let's get it done first, right? And you can vote for the people you want that would do it your way. But at the end of the day, you're really voting for the goal, not how they're getting there.
But there seems to be some short-sightedness.
That's my pitch, and that's how I get along with all my friends, right?
Yeah.
We're just common sense about it.
But there seems to be some short-sightedness in bedroom communities like Cherokee County, where you speak of education funding. Education funding is usually tied to property tax, and that, of course, benefits areas where higher property tax rates because of higher home values are. And, you mentioned the funding mechanism, and Cherokee Countyans are all for Cherokee Countyans and their kids and their education. But what about the kids in DeKalb County? What about do you see what I'm saying? Those are the sort of conversations.
It's a state seat, man.
Right.
Everything I vote for is going to be in the eye, with interest in the eyes of the state and everybody I can help. I'm running for this House district, Cherokee County. Absolutely. But you know what? Doesn't mean I can't care about people in other districts or in the rest of the country. I can give my voice to that too. But
here's the other thing. Yeah, there are reasonable Republicans that you can live with and interact with. There are reasonable independents and libertarians and Democrats. But when they're in office is when I wonder, like, does reason stop at the door because it doesn't seem to be let in, by the doorman there. So are you going to be able to, you think, break through to people who are just beholden to party politics?
I had my good Republican friends that I was referencing on that webpage.
Are they going to vote for you, by the way?
They're in favor of me, and they said, just don't lose your mind, stay yourself, and it's all good.
Oh, okay.
And that's the thing, man. I'm going to stick to it. And I've had my other relatives, they actually believe in me because I pretty much, when I make my word, I keep it. And that's what it's going to be. I'm not, I even said it on the website, it's a commitment. I'm not beholden to an agenda. My mission in life is just make the world a better place,
Yeah.
And that's kind of it, whatever you got to do. And it was really interesting, like walking out of the Secretary of State's office, hands still shaking, and, looking at the people that had already registered, realizing I'm not going to be running against these folks one way or another. And, just clicked on their websites, and some of them were in the same state I was. I registered for the domain in the parking lot before I walked up to the Secretary of State's office, right? I built my website that night with like a free website service just to get something up there.
Yeah.
And, I looked at their websites and I was like, okay, this one's kind of reasonable. Whoa, this one is extreme far right.
Yeah.
This one's kind of reasonable, but it's not even in the right house. Wait, this is not even the right race. They hadn't updated their site yet. They'd run before. And so, for the first couple of days, especially as I was working on my site, I was looking at theirs, and every single day they just kept trending more and more right, more and more
Loony.
Trump, more and more MAGA. Yeah. And I'm just like, whoa, they're all racing to get that share, right? And
kiss the ring,
that's not a good sign to me, It's
Yeah, but that has been the secret to getting elected in a lot of, again, exurban and rural counties in the state of Georgia. Yep. So, they're going with a formula that may have worked for them in the past. But, hopefully the tide is turning on this, and you have an opportunity here in a bedroom community district where, again, the state of Georgia and the Democratic Party's, state party here, they need to win House seats. They need to flip House seats. This is one that they can potentially flip with the climate being what it is.
Yeah. And if I could just have 1 minute to make a pitch here.
Go for it.
I've learned a lot about the internal dynamics of the district in terms of demographics, in terms of the people there, especially on the side of the Democratic Party over the last few days. So it's just the amount of research and the amount of work that goes into it's amazing. And if anything, that is just amped up my energy 200% to make this serious, because there's a number of different reasons why it's so important and why so many state and local people are getting behind me and helping out. Cherokee County is significantly a Republican conservative county, and it's where they get the bulk of their votes in state elections. Yeah. It's where they counteract the Democrats downtown, and making this dent in their numbers severely limits their capabilities of winning state seats. Yeah. And it scares them, because this is the red underbelly of the party, right? And we're making inroads here. Amazing kudos to Cherokee County Dems. I listened to, what they've done and how they've grown over the last couple of years and the inroads they've made. And Deborah Shigley broke 40% of the electorate in her, senatorial campaign. That's amazing for Cherokee County, but it's also just distressing as all heck for their, the Republican Party out there. We're making inroads in one of their most popular and most necessary bases. And right now, Democrats are energized, right?
Yeah.
We have a chance to make some differences. So this race is actually really important on a state level, not just a district level, because of the meaning of it, right?
Yeah.
And if I win, people are going to write op-eds about us. Special election doesn't matter. All the rules are out the door. It doesn't really mean anything. Hey, it's true. It's a special election. Anything can happen. But wouldn't it be great to have articles like that because we won versus, we tried, we got close, but then there's no articles and, whatever.
Well, and I realize this is a one-off election, but, say we flip the calendar and it's 2026. Say you've won and it's 2026 and you're running for re-election, in the general. And all of a sudden, those votes that we didn't have at the party level coming to show up to vote for anybody actually benefits the state level candidates, the constitutional level candidates who are voting, because they benefit by having you on the ticket as well. That it's something that Charlie Bailey, the chairman of the Georgia Democratic Party, spoke about when I had him on my show back in June, that you got to have the down ballot candidates who may or may not win, but are at least going to bring voters to the precincts to help up the ballot as well.
Yep. Amen. Absolutely.
But
every little bit helps, man. So
like
this is me doing my
here,
bit to help and making up for not having boots on the ground for years.
Yeah. I like your odds here. I think you've got a puncher's chance. You're going up against 5 other candidates who are going to split the conservative vote. And if you can get 50% in the first shot, then why not?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Why not? And it's really funny. I mean, I've lived in Cherokee County for 7 years now. I've made a lot of friends and, I volunteer in the school and do a lot of other stuff around the county. But it's really funny how people are like, oh, man, we are going to vote for you. And I looked at the district lines and I live like just inside the district. It's pretty funny. So I've got friends that are 5 minutes away that want to vote and they can't. And I'm like, that's all right. Just tell your friends that live 5 minutes north of.
That's right. Well, and they can still put yard signs. People are going to drive past those yards. Yeah. All right. Listen, I'm going to take a quick break. I mean, I feel like I'm talking to a hyperactive Cocker Spaniel here, so I'm going to calm down. I do want to take a quick break though, because we haven't really talked about the issues, and I want to talk about the issues that are important to you while you're running for this race. We're with Scott Sanders, who's running in the special election for Georgia House District 23 on the Ron Show. Thank you so much for listening on Georgia Now, Progressive Voices via TuneIn. He's working on 4 hours sleep, but I guarantee he's had a cup of coffee or two because he sounds caffeinated. Scott Sanders running for Georgia House District 23 special election. Early voting starts on November 17th. And we were just sitting here talking before we came on, and he said, I still have to set up my bank account. Get the bank account set up so we can get folks to go to your website, which is sandersforga.com, and make donations. But, I mean, look at you. You're not even prioritizing the fundraising pitch, which, God, I cannot stand. And both parties do it. All candidates do it. It's the first thing you see on their website, and I'm sure it'll be the first thing eventually on your website. But at least you just got your feet in the race, and you're on the ground. You're knocking on doors. You're doing the hard work first before the money, and that says a lot about your character already. What are the issues that you think are both driving you and will drive voters in HD 23 to vote for you?
I really appreciate the compliment. Thank you. The number one thing for me, far and above everything else, is education, funding for schools and funding for teachers. My wife is a teacher, and I absolutely just fell in love with her. And I watched her in the classroom, and I would volunteer to help out in her classroom or go to her school after hours and help her set up her classroom because it was the only way I would see her. She was so busy. Yeah. But, the life of a teacher is rough. When we were dating, she barely had enough money to buy a beer when we would meet at the bar, on a date. And I was like, this is not fair. Like, you work your rear end off and you don't get anything for it. And she just works so hard. And so I started volunteering at the school, started coaching in Science Olympiad teams and doing other things. And it's just amazing meeting her friends that are teachers. It's just how hard they work. The ones that care, the ones that make a difference, how hard they work and how little they get for it. Yeah. And how much extra work they have to put in out of their own, or money they put in out of their own pocket and everything. So, it's just a personal issue to me. My brother has been a teacher for 40 years, and he's a principal. Just education, I don't say runs in my blood because I wasn't a teacher, but it's all around me and it's something I care about. So, number one priority is like I look at schools. If you look at my Facebook page, I actually did a driving tour of the district and I just mapped out all the schools so I could just see the different areas and see the different schools, and some are really nice and some are falling apart. It's like, man, let's just fix this.
Yeah.
All our kids need school. And it's important.
Schools are so central to communities too, and it's been such an evisceration over the last half decade or half century or so that it's really sad. And I think you're right; it's a rallying point.
Yeah, and it's a killer because you know what? When they go to cut budgets or they need to find money in a budget, they cut it from a school because it doesn't impact anything for 10 years down the road. Yeah. So the people that cut it are gone or not able to be held accountable, right? Yeah, but then the teachers just got more work and less money. And, if you put money in the teaching budget and the school budgets, you don't see that. But 10 years down the road, all of a sudden, states can have growth and prosperity and a heck of a lot of smart kids. Sorry, I almost cursed there. I'm excited.
Okay. It's okay. There seems to be, if that's cussing, then that's nothing. But there seems to have been so much attention, especially in these exurban and rural counties, about what books are in the library or what books are being used, et cetera, and so on. And teachers have been sort of on the defensive since then. What is your take on cooling that climate?
I'd love to do everything I could to kind of remove those restrictions and give teachers back some freedom, in terms of how they teach. And because different teachers have different personalities, they have different skills. Some are better at teaching in one way than another. I don't believe in censorship. I'm a huge book nerd. I've got hundreds and hundreds of books all over my house and go to the library all the time. I mean, people need access to literature, to worldviews, to diversity, to history, and it can be unbiased, or you can have it taught with feeling by somebody who feels about the subject, as long as they, embrace the entire subject. I absolutely, can't stand when I read things about certain books being taken off the lists, that just drives me nuts.
I mean, there's obviously levels of appropriateness for elementary or middle school, but I mean, yeah, I see where you're coming from, and I agree with that 1,000%. So outside of education, what are the core issues that are going to drive voters to your campaign?
Okay. So education is a big one. And the next one is public services. I work with first responders, my day job, and, support the network for them. Yeah. And so, I'm all about public services and first responders and the job they do and how hard it is. And, that's, emergency personnel, police officers, et cetera. But then also public services in the sense of libraries, like I mentioned before. Yeah. Books are a passion of mine. Yeah. People should have access to that because, there's not a lot, you may not have a good internet connection at home. We're a rural county. Mm-hmm. They may not have access to books at school, but the library has a lot more than their school does. Mm-hmm. And so there's just the opportunity there for education. The libraries do a lot of programs. Mm-hmm. And a lot of social activities, and they do engage the community, like you said, schools do. Libraries do as well. And, I'm down at R.T. Jones Library every month doing the scavenger hunt with my little ones. It's just fun. And then you go to the kids section, pick up books, they get a lollipop for completing the scavenger hunt, and then we go home. We read the books, we go back next week. It's just that kind of stuff. The infrastructure, the services for the community is the other big point that, I really want to push for.
Fantastic. All right. Well, listen, you've still got some work to do. You need to go to the bank and get that account set up so we can get some folks to donate to your campaign because I mean, it's encouraging that anybody wants to step forward and run, but pulling money out of their savings, I've worked for congressional candidates who did that, and it's heartwarming and it's also heartbreaking at the same time. So let's make sure we get some folks to donate to your campaign. Again, the website is sandersforga.com, and Scott, as soon as he gets off this call, is going to run to the bank and get that account set up so that you guys can donate to it as soon as possible. Scott Sanders, thank you so much for joining the Ron Show, the lone Democrat running for Georgia House District Seat 23 in Cherokee County. My best to you, best of luck, and stay in touch, okay? Because when you go running for re-election in 2026, we're going to have to do this all over again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for having me on. Remember, the special election is December 9th. People, please get out there and vote. Vote early if you can, but vote by December 9th.
Yeah, I was going to say, early voting starts November 17th for sure. We want to get them out there early or on Election Day. Thank you so much for your time, Scott.
Thank you. Have a great day.
I love ending an hour with that kind of enthusiasm. We need more Scott Sanders in the world, yeah? But there he is in House District 23 here in the state of Georgia, running for that recently vacated seat. Again, that is sandersforga.com. I'll include that in the show notes at ronshowatl.com. As they're finishing up today with that special election, likely a runoff, he'll probably still need your campaign contributions. Another special election in the Athens Metro. We'll speak with Eric Gisler running for that vacant seat as well. Next hour when the Ron Show returns on Georgia Now, Progressive Voice via TuneIn or wherever you podcast.
This is The Ron Show.
Heard weekdays, 4 to 6 p.m. on Georgia Now. The rerun, 8 to 10 a.m. the following weekday. And, of course, weeknights at 11 p.m. at Progressive Voices via TuneIn or Review Podcast. Forgive me again while I take you back in time when we got to meet Eric Gisler running for Georgia House Seat 121. That seat vacated in late October when we caught up with him. Here is that conversation. Jill Nolan, reporting from the Georgia Recorder, an Athens area Georgia lawmaker, announced Tuesday that he's stepping down from the seat he's held since 2018, creating a new vacancy in the State House. That would be State Representative Marcus Wiedewer, a Watkinsville Republican, who said he's stepping down to focus more on his expanding work as Vice President of External Affairs at Hill Point, a real estate development and investment management firm. Wiedewer served as chairman of a budget subcommittee focused on general government spending. He's also currently leading a study committee that is looking at the impacts of expanding gambling in Georgia, a thorny issue that has eluded proponents for years. So, who's running to fill that vacancy? Well, I know a guy who is, and he's a Democrat. Eric, am I saying it right? Eric Gisler?
Yeah, you got it right.
All right. Not bad on the first try. Eric, thanks for joining the Ron Show today. How are you?
I'm doing well. A little bit overwhelmed, but excited to be here.
Yeah, I mean, did you anticipate this, or did this come from out of nowhere?
It came from out of nowhere. I saw it when I woke up yesterday morning, and I realized it's time to get going.
Wow, and like right away you just said, let's do this. And literally that's what I saw on your social media from like about 15, 16 hours ago. You literally posted, let's do this. I love the enthusiasm. I love the tenacity. And in this era, it's difficult to find a lot of that outside the MAGA bubble. But I mean, here you are. Why are you ready to just jump right into the fire?
Well, I got a little bit of an early start. I actually ran against Mr. Wiedewer last year, but I got in very late in that race. I didn't actually get started until June. There's a whole backstory there, but we'll skip that. But I got in very early this year. I actually announced my candidacy for next year's election in August.
I see.
So when this happened yesterday morning, I kind of had the infrastructure in place already.
I see. All right.
Very easy to get going.
I like that you're making up for lost time, realizing you got in the race a little bit late last time for whatever reason it was, and now you're in on it early, and you've hit the ground running. So since the news came out yesterday, have you felt a little jolt, a little boost to the campaign? Any new eyes on? Obviously, you got my attention because we hadn't been paying attention to many state races because it's just we're still ensconced in public service races and here in Atlanta municipal races, et cetera, and so on.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely been a reaction. My phone's kind of been ringing off the hook. I've been meeting some new people, but for the most part, it's people I've known for years all around the state. I've been working hard over the last 8 or so years in Democratic politics, focused at the local and state level. So I've got a pretty good network, and everybody was really excited about anything they could do to help with the campaign.
Give us your background. I understand you went to Georgia Southern and UGA, and that's allowed. But a little bit more about your professional background. It's my understanding you worked in what is financial services technology.
Yes. Yep. I spent about 19 years at an online banking company through a few acquisitions. Ended up working at one point for Intuit through those acquisitions. So financial services, technology for sure. I got laid off just before COVID hit in 2020. And then I found myself working in the startup world a few months later. In the meantime, I actually bought a small business. I had the olive basket. We do olive oils and balsamic vinegars here in Athens. And ever since, I've been doing both jobs. So I've been running that, and I've been to a few different companies in the startup world, mostly based in financial services and insurance tech.
So before I get into issues, you mentioned olive oil. Olive oil is like hella expensive now. It used to not be as crazy expensive as it is, but can you give some background on that? What's happening?
Well, a few years ago, there was a big shortage just in the harvest. And I think it was mostly based on weather, potentially related to climate change. So that was a big issue a couple of years ago. But now, I mean, it's obviously the tariffs, right? I actually just got an email from my supplier a week or so ago saying that they've held off as long as they could. They're going to have to raise prices to us because of the tariffs. So prices are going up a little bit. So far, I've not really had to raise my prices, which actually has me selling really high quality olive oil at pretty close to grocery store prices. So, Yeah,
I'm gonna be hitting you.
position.
I'm gonna be hitting you up for that stuff because I think I cook everything in olive. I bathe things in olive. Are you kidding me? I love olive oil. It's weird. I don't like the taste of olives. I don't want to eat olives, but I love olive oil.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
So this is another dumb question about olive. Can you grow an olive tree in the U.S. domestically? Is there much of that here for you to lean on, or is it all outside the U.S.?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, California's been growing olives for decades, and they produce some really, really good olive oils, and I do get some from them.
Okay.
Northern Hemisphere harvest is really around this time of year, and they start hitting, my supplier around January. So yeah, California is great, but even here in Georgia, if you go a little bit further south, there's a few producers down there that are starting to make some really good oils.
Okay, that's good to know. Let's talk about issues, though. What are the issues that you find are most important for your district? Which, by the way, is a conservative-leaning district. So it wouldn't surprise me in the least if you said to yourself, you need to run something of a centrist or maybe even a right-leaning campaign while running as a Democrat. I've seen conservative Democrats running for office. So give me the pitch to that district in particular from your point of view.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to run a conservative or centrist campaign. I am.
Oh, good.
I've been saying kind of nonpartisan, but what I mean by that is we've gotten to the point now where facts and math and real actual data, verifiable data, just tell a story, right? And Oconee is a pretty red district, but I always like to tell people, a point of fact here, that 2022 runoff between Senator Reverend Warnock and Herschel Walker, people had to come back out for that runoff, right?
Yeah.
Oconee County had the biggest drop off in Republican turnout of any county in the state, which tells me Oconee County Republicans are more aligned with moderate, maybe country club Republicans, not so much MAGA. We've got plenty of MAGA. The Oconee Republican Party is as MAGA as they get, but your average Oconee Republican voter, I think their eyes are open to what they got with last year's election, and I think they did not get what they were hoping for.
Can you elaborate on that? I mean, talk to me about specific things that have happened since then that you think are actually, rankling nerves within the GOP.
Yeah, well, so I think, number one, the big billionaire bill. I can't call it that stupid name they gave it because it's anything but beautiful.
It ain't beautiful.
But yeah, I mean, the effects of that, among other things, are federal funding for healthcare, education, and food assistance are all being cut drastically, right? And we're seeing that now with the shutdown fight in Washington. And with those cuts coming down the pike, even if the Republicans manage to concede and extend ACA, subsidies next year, the rest of that bill is still coming, and there's still going to be massive cuts to all those programs. And Oconee County is known for its education, but if we lose our Title I funding and our IDEA funding, that's going to impact families here in Oconee County.
I'm glad you brought IDEA up because it boggles the mind that there isn't at least the passing thought within MAGA that there could be folks within our voting bloc who are affected by that. I mean, learning deficiencies or especially like they don't know a bias. They don't know partisanship. They affect everyone, no matter your ideological leanings. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything to add to that. I think just exactly right. And I know that, the Republican leaning mothers here in Oconee County, when the school system tells them, sorry, we can't support your IEP plan anymore because the funding was cut, they're not going to like that answer when they get it.
Well, and it's not exactly as if the private schools are there to accommodate either. That's not really an option.
Right.
Talk to me a little bit because I lived in Athens for about 5 or 6 years while I was sometimes going to school and sometimes not. I know it's a bedroom community. I know it tends to be a little bit more affluent than Athens, Clark County for sure. And so it is a little more right leaning. So when you speak about things like inadequate health care, tell me how that still impacts Oconee Countyans.
Yeah, I mean, Oconee is an affluent community. There's no question about that. But we do still have people in the community that depend on those services, right? that, I mean, SNAP funding, that's going to impact people here. The Oconee Area Resource Council runs a food bank, and we're already hearing that they're starting to run short on supplies.
Wow.
There's a Presbyterian church right in downtown Watkinsville that stocks a food cabinet, and these days that food's gone as soon as they stock it. They can't keep it stocked. And SNAP funding hasn't even run out yet. So we're already seeing the impact of tariffs and rising grocery prices and all that kind of stuff right here in Oconee County, even though some folks may not care to admit it.
Do you find when you're out on the campaign trail, I mean, I know you had a stunted campaign last cycle and are on the ground running early this cycle. Have you found while on the campaign trail interacting with conservative voters who at least give you an audience and show a sense of empathy? Or, I mean, is there any fluctuation whatsoever with that base? I mean, I think that's important, don't you? I think that's important. It's easy to make the case, but it's hard to make people empathize. Apparently,
it's going to be critical having those conversations, right? And I did go out last year. While the rest of the team was focusing on turning out the Democratic base, I was trying to target and put myself in front of people who might be willing to listen to a different perspective. And most of the time when I talked to them, I had plenty of doors slammed in my face, sure. But I had many that said, I don't really agree with you, but I appreciate you knocking on my door and having a conversation, right?
Yeah.
And that was last year, right? But back in the good old days when we had Joe Biden in office. Now, as we talked about, there's undeniable damage being done to Americans of every stripe. And I think those conversations are going to be a little bit more forthcoming this time around.
Is affordable housing or a lack thereof, is that an issue in Watkinsville, Oconee County?
Yeah, I think most people here would say it's probably not really. But my counter to that is, housing prices keep going up here in the county. My kids are in college, right? If they wanted to try to buy a house out of college, there's no way they could afford anything in Oconee County. Right. It's just not happening. And one of the big, things that attracts people to Oconee County and young families in particular is the school system, right? Yeah. It's known nationwide to have, one of the best school systems around. But we're not that far away from having a housing issue here in Oconee where those young families can't afford to live here. So it will definitely, I mean, if we don't have those new families moving in and supporting the school system, where that leads is not something I think most people in the county realize or really want to see happen.
So talk to me about what the Georgia legislature and whoever the next governor is, how that office and those two chambers, how they can help impact affordable housing, even in communities like Oconee County, where the folks that live there are quite comfortable, but there are those that like to live there that aren't. Tell me how the state government could step in and help bridge that gap.
Yeah, when it comes to housing, it really comes down to supply and demand. And if you really want to get down to it, it's local governments and zoning and ordinances and things like that really have the most impact. At the state level, though, we can do things to incentivize local governments to support certain things, right? If you think about housing affordability, I mean, there are ideas around greater access to accessory dwelling units, updating zoning codes to allow for more duplexes, triplexes, small scale multifamily buildings, those types of things that you can kind of incentivize local governments to plan a little better and increase density, to really just at the end of the day put more affordable units on the market.
And here's the thing. It's been a million years since I've even been to Watkinsville, so I could be completely, not in the know on this. But we see here in Metro Atlanta, a lot of the exurban communities, like Suwannee comes to mind, Johns Creek they're doing these town center developments where they are building affordable housing, whether it be apartment or condos above, street level retail. Is anything like that even bubbling up in Watkinsville, or has that already been done, or is there expansion opportunities there? Talk to me a little bit about that.
I hear about new projects that could support those kind of multi-use sorts of things, in the planning stages.
Mm.
We do have a facility, Wire Park, that opened up a few years ago. It's mostly a commercial facility, but they did build, a few apartment buildings out in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are actually some more planned, and maybe even the construction started behind the main building there. But when those new units went on the market, they went on the market for $600,000.
Oh, that's not.
Which is,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's not what we're talking about.
So as far as the affordability, that's definitely something that could really be incentivized in Oconee County for sure.
Well, and here's what I don't understand. We have to deal with this here in Atlanta because of a long history of racism. MARTA is handcuffed because by design, it was only meant to go into certain neighborhoods to allow, the cleaning lady to come in, back in the day, but certainly not the rail. And I know Oconee County, a bit of a suburban county for the Athens DMA, but you've got to have transit, but you also have to have affordable housing if you don't have enough transit for folks that are going to work in the retail sector. And I know that Oconee County has plenty of retail, hospitality, food, and beverage. And those folks who can't afford to live in the housing that exists in Oconee County, where are they living?
Yeah, I think for the most part they're living in Athens, but that becomes problematic too because everybody's trying to live in Athens, and supply and demand is driving the rental prices up over there as well. It's probably even more of an issue in Athens. And
in Atlanta, of course, we also deal with gridlock. What is traffic like in the Watkinsville to Athens corridor because of that?
I used to live in LA, so if people ask me about
it's all relative.
Traffic in Athens, people who live here would tell you it's bad. I will tell you the road that I live on over the last 10 years has seen a lot of development. It's been widened. Traffic is way better than it was in the past. And I think, I actually have to give credit to the all Republican county commission. They've been approving projects to put in more roundabouts. That's been fantastic. I'm a big fan of roundabouts, and they've really worked out well here. So people are always going to complain about traffic, but with some of the more recent developments, it's gotten a lot better, I think.
Okay, all right, terrific. All right. Well, the ball is in your court. You've hit the ground running. Special election has not been announced yet, but I know you're out there pressing the flesh already and doing the good work. But real quick, there's a push from the left right now with SNAP benefits about to expire. They're trying to get the governor to acquiesce and open a special session to dip into the state's $14.6 billion rainy day fund to step in and boost SNAP benefits to keep folks fed through the holidays. Your thoughts on that? If you were in the State House right now, would you be behind that?
What I would like to see is the federal government dip into their reserve fund for SNAP. But if that's not going to happen, then yeah, absolutely. What is a rainy day fund for? And ours is way overstuffed, by the way. I mean, the rainy day fund is only supposed to be about $5 or $6 billion. We're sitting on about $14 billion on top of that, I think. So yeah, if there was ever a reason to dip into it, I think this is it.
All right, Eric Gisler running for the newly vacated, soon to be vacated, State House seat. That is District 121. You've been there since 2003. You call yourself a reluctant candidate, and I'm curious as to why that is.
Yeah, when I put that in, I probably need to change that. I'm 100% in the race. But, I mean, if it comes down to it, there are a lot of things I'd rather be spending my time on than trying to run for office. But with the way the state is and the way the country is going, we need good leadership and we need a change. Republicans have been running the state for 22 years straight, House, Senate, and the governor's mansion. And you see where we've gotten, right? So we need a change, and I'm prepared to do that.
What is the county Democratic Party structure like there for you?
Here in Oconee?
Yeah.
Being a somewhat rural, exurban, red-leaning county, the Oconee County Democrats are fantastic. It's a very good group. We have a lot of participation. They're very active in the community, and I couldn't ask for better support.
Well, that's good to know. Once we get Georgia Now off the ground and running and ready to hit the road, we're going to take the show on the road and do some local shows. So I'll make sure that I put Watkinsville, Oconee County on the map so we can come out there and see you guys.
Yeah, please do. Love to have you.
All right, terrific. The website is pretty easy for you to find if you're looking to help Eric out with his campaign. It's his name, EricGisler.com. Eric Gisler, running for the House District 121 seat, recently vacated. Good luck to you, my friend, and thanks for joining the Ron Show today. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks again for having me.
By the way, what despicable thing did the Oconee County GOP post last night to social media? I'll share when the Ron Show returns. In a now deleted, as best as I can tell, Facebook post, the Oconee County, Georgia Republican Party posted a reminder that, this was about a day ago, that, tomorrow or today was the special election for House Seat 121, State House Seat 121. We just heard from Eric Gisler running for that against Dutch Guest, the GOP candidate for that special House seat. Eric Gisler posted this earlier today, and this is from last night, the post that I believe, again, is now deleted. He said, I met Dutch last week, very briefly. In all honesty, he seems like a nice guy. He's just running on a platform I disagree with. That's fine. That's healthy politics. He said, in the minute or two we spoke, I did not get the sense that he would support a message like the one that he shared. This is overt bigotry right out in the open and being amplified by the local Republican Party, not big money from out of district. This is exactly what I'm running against, Eric Gisler writes, and why I need your support and your vote today. If you are more, quote, traditional conservative than, quote, MAGA Republican, does this group speak for you, he asks. Do they speak for Dutch, he asks. It's a great day to make a change. Please vote. And here is what the post said. From the Oconee County GOP yesterday, they wrote, tomorrow, I'm voting for Dutch. Dutch stands for conservative traditional values. The other option is a guy that is being endorsed by the Muslim woman running for governor of Georgia. And you should know the Dems are being very aggressive in going after voters, so do not sleep on this election. Vote tomorrow. The candidate, this, again, I believe now deleted Oconee County GOP Facebook post. The candidate they're speaking of is Representative Rua Roman, who did go to that district to campaign with Eric Gisler, as did many prominent Georgia Democrats go to assist and door knock to help Eric Gisler win a state house seat. For some reason, however, the only candidate that the author of that Oconee County GOP, the Oconee County Republican Party Facebook post, the only candidate that author sought to harp on was the Palestinian American, the Muslim candidate running for governor that came to that district amongst many Democrats at the state and local and even national level to campaign for Eric Gisler. That is what we're up against. Polls are open until 7. That'll do it for today's Ron Show. Thank you so much for listening. Again, I want to thank Scott Sanders weeks ago for joining us, Eric Gisler as well weeks ago. Good luck to them both. Show airs 4 to 6 p.m. weekdays on Georgia Now. The replay 8 to 10 a.m. the following morning. 11 p.m. Progressive Voices via TuneIn or wherever you podcast. Show notes as always at RonShowATL.com. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow.